Hey, everybody. Welcome to Trustworthy. It's another Get Personal with Christina and Susan. And this is our holiday, we're going to talk about the holidays today and trust. But you're noticing Christina is not here. So when we talk about things going on in the holidays and how the opportunities, as I'll call them right now, a lot of it is things don't turn out exactly the way you'd like them to. And Christina's stuck on a train and it's a little bit late. And hopefully she will join us. So I'm hoping that works out. And I thought I'd take this time to really to welcome you and to say happy holidays and to tell you a little bit about what I've been thinking about as it relates to trust in the holidays. There's so much going on right now, and it's so beautiful and rich and complex, right? I mean, you're getting together with people way more often than normal. Like you've got holiday events, holiday parties. We have a Trustworthy Lab next week, and people are like, oh, we'd love to come, but we're going to be at this holiday event. We've got 3 events booked. So you've got a lot of holiday stuff going on. You've got a lot of family things going on, right? Family and friend get-togethers. We just got out of Thanksgiving dinner. We're getting ready for, whether it's whatever holiday you're celebrating right now, Christmas, Hanukkah, Ramadan, whatever it is that you're celebrating. And you've got a lot of work pressures, right? End of the year work pressures where things really need to get done. So whether you're in the office or not in the office, you've got a lot of pressure, whether it's you've got to close your sales, meet your numbers, finish your final reports, spend whatever budget you've got. If there's something to like deciding, is it realistic and what can you do? So there's just a lot going on in these 6 weeks. So overlay that with it's not just all fun, right? I mean, um, this is a time where people get reflective. Let's be real. We just got out of Thanksgiving, and I don't know about you, but in our Thanksgiving dinner, we went around and we talked about, what are you thankful for? What are you grateful for? And really taking a look at evaluating and assessing your life and who's in it and what's really working that you want to be grateful for. So what if you took all of this stuff that's going on, all of these buckets, and you became a little bit more intentional about it? Because trust doesn't change in all of this, right? People know whether you're stressful or not. People know whether you're authentic or not. People will know whether you're communicating or not. People will know whether you're being, generous and collaborative and open and highly communicative or not. So I don't know about you, but when I get stressed, I tend to get short and abrupt, and my communication changes, and I may be like my mind's going a million times a minute trying to connect dots and solve problems and get done what I need to get done. And I'm thinking, what if we actually took a moment during the next 6 weeks and did things that would make us more trustworthy, take things to like take more advantage of these opportunities that are coming our way to connect deeply with people and not just superficially, to make our work deliverables and things that we have to finish by the end of the year a pleasant experience where we're actually caring about each other, where we have each other's backs, where we're not just rushing through it to our next thing that we have to do, and where we really are grateful for being here and being brought to this moment in time where we are able to interact and to have family and to have friends and to have a job and to have work and to be grateful and thankful for that. Because you know what, at the end of the day, there are lots of people who aren't where we are. And so, and where we are is personal, right? So where we are is different for each one of us. So how about just taking a moment, like right now, and thinking about where you are and thinking about for a moment what it would take to actually build trust with those you're interacting with in this moment of in time. And and I can break it into 3 buckets, like 1, family and friends, 2, workplace, 3, in general, and tell you about what I've been thinking about. So, workplace and let's talk about like family or friends, because to me, they balance out my world. They feed my friends and my family feed my soul, and I want to make sure that I honor those relationships, and that during this stressful, crazy time over the next few weeks, as I have so many things on my plate, that I'm taking a moment and thinking about and being intentional about how I'm building those relationships. So, what are the things that I'm thinking about? Communicating openly. I mean, it's hard, right? We all are running around, we're shopping, we're getting gifts, we're going to our events, we're making sure that we've got, we're everybody's taken care of. Are we communicating when things are working or not working? Are we calling our friends and our sisters, and are we checking in with them? Are we expressing and explaining what our plans are, what our needs are, what our expectations are for the next, like when I'm planning something, I'm going home to see my family. I'm in Minneapolis. I'm going home to Philly to see my family. And I can plan it in my head. I can plan it with Delta. I can plan it with the car rental. But am I communicating it all to my sisters and my mom and my family so that I can manage their expectations? That is huge because, if they don't know when I'm coming and what I'm doing and how I'm operating, and I just am checking things off a list and getting it done, then they're going to get frustrated and they're going to get stressed, and then they can't plan their time. And so that's not helpful, right? That is literally, then can they trust me that that it's all going to work out okay, and that they're going to be able to support the visit. And then am I honoring my commitments? While I'm going to Philly, a great example, again, we're in the holiday period. um, you really have a moment where I've committed. I just came off a cruise to Antarctica, which was amazing. And I met some people that live in the Philly area. So I have commitments to see them while I am in Philly. I have commitments to see some of my high school friends and some of my business colleagues while I'm in Philly. And I have commitments to my family. So at the end of the day, I really need to make sure that everybody knows what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and honoring that. And if I can't honor it, then am I gonna let them know, and let them know really ahead of time, and when they can make a difference? I was just checking to see. I just heard a blip if that was Christina. Um, so honoring those commitments, communicating about them if they don't work out. I don't know if they're all going to work out. I mean, honestly, I've got nieces and nephews and their kids, and I want to make sure that I'm spending quality time with them. My mom is 93 or 92. I don't know. She's at the age where I really want to spend quality time with her as much as I can. And so I want to make sure I fulfill that commitment to both her and to me and to myself. So how do you honor those commitments? And if they change, am I thinking about actually letting people know so that they're aware of what to do and what's going on? Being patient, offering grace, understand that people right now are really stressed. And so if they don't communicate, or if things don't go exactly as planned, or it takes longer to do something than you thought, forgiving is a good thing right now. Being patient and forgiving would be great. And and really just kind of thinking, how do you move forward in a positive way? I think that would be just awesome. And then the last thing is being present. Being present's hard. It means putting down your phone. It means when you're interacting with somebody, interacting. Because let's face it, when you communicate, when you are forgiving and grateful, when you are present, and when you honor, you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, it does nothing but build trust and secure trust and solidify trust. And when people trust you and you trust other people, think about how great those relationships really work. So, no, those were things I'm thinking about, as you can tell, because I'm going home to Philly and I'm like kind of thinking, how can it all go well? How can it blow up? Where are the stress points going to be? Those are the things I'm thinking about. I'm curious as to what you're thinking about for your next few weeks, especially if you're visiting family and friends and trying to fit it all in. So are you literally honoring your commitments? Are you communicating them and then honoring them? Are you letting people know when it's not going to work? Oh, I see Christina is on the chat. So I don't know, Christina, can you get in? I sent you a link. And are you in? So anyway, those are the things that I'm thinking about as it relates to family and friends. I know Christina is going home to Australia. I need to click the toggle on the right to let her in. Give me a moment. Ah, okay. Click. Let you in. Hey.
Hi.
So you've been listening to my, like, what I've been thinking about as it relates to all of our family and friends coming in, right? Coming up.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful words.
Yeah, and I was just getting into, you're going home to Australia, I'm going to Philly for a week. I mean, I think the same applies. Like, really that the open and honest communication, the transparency, the managing expectations. It's huge when everybody's running in a million different directions.
Yeah, I find it really hard to manage expectations in the holiday season because there's so much, like the mental checklist, let alone the real physical checklist, just becomes much bigger and longer. And you want to do things for the people you love, right? You want to help them and then you want to buy them gifts or you want to take them on experiences. So I feel like it's a wonderful season, but it's also really hard to manage expectations because schedules change all the time. Just like today, I was stuck on a train. um, and so, yeah, it's tough. But I think there are really neat ways that we can still make sure that everyone who we're trying to manage expectations with understand where our intent is. And
Hmm.
this is where we kind of dip
I love
into
that.
that grace.
Yeah. And I think that's important. I think we all have to be patient and forgiving and understand. I love the intent idea. We're not trying to hurt anybody or get anybody. Things happen. So I think for me, one of the things that I'm going to do over the next few weeks of craziness is make sure I take time to breathe and make sure that these things we're talking about are intense. They don't get lost. And so if I miss a communication or if I miss something, I mean, you were great at letting me know as soon as you knew that your train was going to be late. And you gave me lots of, I've never been on this platform before. And so you gave me lots of like time to play with it and make sure that I was able to get it to work. So that's what I mean. Like, so that's the intent, right? The intent
Yeah.
is things happen, but can we then think about the consequence to other people and what is it going to do to them and try to mitigate that and try to lessen that and I think we can do that. I mean, I don't think it's a lot. I just think we normally get caught up I know I'll use me. I could get so stressed out that, my train's going to be late and what am I going to do? And my head starts going in circles. I don't know how many of you have that happen. Like when things just don't work out as planned, and then you're trying to solve problems and fit it all in and get everything done. And you lose the fact that there's somebody on the other side that is depending on you or relying on you or expecting you.
Mm.
And so, how do you just take that moment when you're in that spiral to just breathe and think about that intentionally and manage that and really make that reach out? Because I don't think it took you a long. Well, you probably had to find the website and you had to give me that stuff, but it did take a little bit of work. But look what it got us. We got to live stream on time.
Yeah, that's true. I think what's interesting, so you mentioned the spiral, and that's one thing that I used to really not manage very well was the spiral and the stress when my plans didn't go the way I thought they would, or if something was delayed, or if I had missed a train, I would stress about that. And I'd think, oh gosh, like, what am I going to do? What are they going to think? So there's the managing expectations and being courteous and thinking about the other person enough to give them a heads up. And then I feel like there's another part to that, which is where you give yourself grace and you remember
Mhm.
like this crazy thing that we call life, and trusting yourself and knowing that things aren't meant to go to plan. Like that's not the reality of life. That is not normal. Things are going to mess up. We're going to have challenges and hiccups, and like the the hiccups, that's the normality because we're
Right.
dealing with people, we're dealing with schedules, we're dealing with so much out of our control. There's almost a little bit of peace that I personally found in recognizing that things don't things don't have to go to plan, nor should I expect them to go to plan.
Like you can only, what do they say? You can only control what you can control, and then you have to
Yeah.
let the rest go because there are things around us. And then things happen. I think you called me in the middle of it when I was spiraling last week when I was having problems with my Outlook. So again, we're in the holiday season. I'm having problems with my Outlook. I go online to try to get somebody from Microsoft to help me, and I end up almost being completely scammed in this whole thing. And I called a number and it wasn't the right. The guy led me. I Suffice it to say, we saved it before anything really horrible happened. It was a spam or scam almost ready. But to your point of what we are just talking, and just so everybody knows, it's all taken care of. All the securities are put in. It's done. I just spent my last hour with Microsoft on the phone, which was interesting because she said, "Can I get into your computer?" And I said, "No." Nobody ever again can get into my computer. I said, "Can you show me what to do? I'll do it." Like, how's that for trust? At the end of the hour, I felt like I trusted her. I probably could have let her into my computer, but I was not going to do it. But anybody talking to me that day, I mean, think about it. You called me when that was when I was in the middle of that happening, and I was pretty stressed. Like you were trying to
Yeah.
talk to me about something, and it had to do with what we were doing and holiday and whatever is going, the million things going on right now. And that was a very unexpected blip in my week.
Hmm.
So there's the stuff we plan that doesn't turn out, like your train, and at least you know where it falls. And then there's this stuff that happens to people all the time. And I have to say, you were very gracious with me and listened and got off the phone quick because you needed to, because I needed to figure it out. But how do I give myself space to be stressed about something that could impact my whole security? And I still have all these other things going on. I still have
Yeah.
trustworthy going on. I still have my commitments going on. I still have to, make something for my dinner Friday night. We still have all these
Yeah.
things to do. And how
Yeah,
do we forgive ourselves and have grace with other people? I think that's really a big thing because you never know what's dropping at any moment.
that's right. That's right. I think another thing that is interesting around the holidays is you reconnect with people who maybe you
Hmm.
haven't seen in a while. I think in the US it's a little unique because Thanksgiving was, basically yesterday, and Christmas is tomorrow. So it's so close. But with Christmas as well, you come back together and you reconnect and you have conversations with people who you don't usually spend your day to day with. And you start to learn about their lives, you start to learn about their beliefs, you start to learn about, things that they do and their friends and their work, and it's exciting, but it's also really intriguing. And sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming. So I'm curious to find out, how do you navigate that, Susan? Like, how do you navigate finding out, like, reconnecting with your family and your loved ones, but then almost having to, I don't know, be reintroduced to their lives?
So, other than going into bed, pulling the covers over my head and saying, "When's it January?" You know what? I try to. So, hmm, it's a lot,
Mm,
and it's especially a lot because Mark and I live. We don't have kids, and we don't have family here. We have a cousin, just cousins here. So we don't have a lot going on unless we intentionally make it go on. Our lives are really quiet.
mm,
And so you've got this few weeks of constant, like when I go home with my family, they're going to be kids and the little kids and my mom and everybody talking at once and all this energy. And yes, we want to catch up to your point. And I think what I do is I stay in the spirit of curiosity and really love. I mean, you can make a decision that you want to be there, or you can make a decision that you don't want to be there. And so I think my decision consciously is to say, these people are part of my life. And in order for the relationship to be meaningful, then we have to open up and share. And I need to be curious and open and caring and loving about what they are sharing. And then also I have to be open and transparent and communicative about what's going on in my life. So I find that sometimes people get so excited that, like, I'll walk away and go, she never asked me anything about me. Like, so that doesn't build
yeah.
trust, right? So I want to
Mm-mm.
make sure, because there's so much going on in my life and so much excitement that I want to share, and challenges and stories, because I'm a storyteller, that you give enough space for the other person to share as well, because that's the only way you're going to build trust. Is there's got to be space for both of you to be present and to tell your stories and to share and communicate. And I don't know. What about you? That's kind of what I think when you ask that question.
I think that's beautiful. It reminds me of, so I just came back from a client engagement. That's why I was on the train. And we were talking about active listening and
Mhm.
what it actually means to actively listen. And I feel like those lessons can be brought to Christmas, right? When we're sitting at the table, and it has to do with really starting with a place of intrigue and curiosity, listening, and then asking questions about what you just heard, not responding with something that about yourself that their story reminded you of, right? So not turning it into your story. So I really encourage for my clients, but also for everyone listening, that at the dinner table, find out how people are. doing what their day-to-day lives are, listen to the stories, but be like, I don't know, Carmen Sandiego, ask 3 questions. Like, explore further. Ask them, how did you feel about that? And what did they say? Or what was the reaction? Would you
I,
do that again?
so I I had I worked for Nutrisystem at one point, and they put us through active listening training. And a really easy one that people could do, especially if you zone out a little bit and you weren't as present as you'd like it to be, and all of a sudden you realize, I just missed that, or you don't have that next question, like you said, tell me more about that.
Mm,
If you just
yeah,
say, tell me more about that, so tell me more, people will keep talking because people love talking about themselves. So
yeah,
I would add that one too. Just it's a really easy one I use like a lot when I'm like want them to keep on telling me and engaging. Like, tell
yeah.
me more.
I love that. Tell me more, Susan.
So what are you doing for the holidays, Christina? Oh, we have another one of these next week. We can update them for next week.
Right. So next week I will be in a completely different continent taking this call. Um, yeah, completely different time zone. I'll be in Sydney. Um, very much looking forward to it. My Christmas is going to be a hot, summery one. Apparently, the weather over there is sticky, like Florida, which it's not my favorite, but it beats this New York winter. Apparently, New York this week is colder than Alaska, which is wild. So I'm happy to be escaping that. But usually, my Christmas is full of family reunions. There is a spit. There is music. There is
Wait,
often
what's a
people in the
spit? A
pool.
spit? What's a spit?
A spit is when they put meat on the
Ah,
round thing and it rotates. Yeah, we do pork. My family likes pork, but it could be any type of meat. So we do that. Everyone brings dishes as well. Music, a couple of drinks. Um, the backyard is lined with palm trees. The pool is blue and shining, just tempting you to jump in. And it's just catching up with a lot of people. And I just can't wait. Like, I love spending time with my parents and my siblings. I love learning about them. And my siblings are just the most incredible young adults. I'm just constantly fascinated by what they're doing.
so I have a question. I mean, I have my family's in Philly. I'm in Minneapolis. Your family's in Australia. Kind of a little more distance, but similar. How do you keep trust with your family? Like, so how do you work it out of New York so that when you get there next week, or I think it's next week, that you already have that trust built in? What have you done intentionally?
Mm. So I will say my strategy has shifted over the years. When I first arrived, I just figured I'd call them every now and then, and I didn't think that through. So I found myself calling each one individually, but I'd only speak to each one like once every 3 months. And that was no fun, right? It's like I have to call 6 people. Oh my gosh. um, so it felt like a lot, and it wasn't very effective. Today, we have a family group chat where we are constantly posting photos, funny stories. When my sister was traveling around South and Central America, she was posting videos of her adventures. So we stay connected, and we're really quite honest in our interactions as well. We don't please. I think naturally, me and my siblings, I think we're a little bit more people pleasers, kind of growing up, and we've grown out of that, which is great. We're still we love to please and love our family, but we're so honest now, and I don't think we've had that level of honesty before. And I think it's because the constant family chat, the sharing. Um, and I think that's been a big game changer. I kind of feel like that might be really obvious for most people, but it took us a while to actually form the group chat.
I think my sisters and I have that too, where we actually have two. We have a sisters chat, and then we have what we call my maiden name is Schwartz. So we have the Schwartz-Arini chat where the kids and the nieces and nephews are on it, and we're constantly posting things to that. And I think to your point, if trust is built with authenticity and communication and transparency, um, and then the doing what you say you're going to do and consistency, like, right, those are things we talk about all the time. Isn't the
Yeah.
chat just giving you that? Like, doesn't the chat allow you to show up using technology in a way that inspires more trust versus because people don't feel left out?
Yeah, that's true. It's very inclusive. And then when you think about it from a love languages perspective, if all you have are your words, then give it. Like,
Yeah.
use it, leverage that. And I'm still shocked that for the first few years of me being here, I was just trying to like find time to schedule a call. Like, okay, this week I'll call my mum, next week I'll call my brother. And it just wasn't working.
Yeah, I think so my sisters and I, there are only two of us, so we talk almost every day. And then I talk to my mom 3, 4 times a week, something like that. So and they're all short. They don't have to be really big conversations. They can be like, 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute conversations versus you think sometimes, oh, if I call her, I need a half hour or something like that. No, it's just a
Yeah.
check-in more than anything else.
Yeah, you're right. I know this one might be uh, slightly irrelevant in the conversation, but I do feel like it's relevant. We have gotten to a point in our sibling relationship as adults now, where we can say, I love you. And I think that's something that I didn't know if we'd get there. Like, obviously, everyone knows, right? You know, you love each other. But I do feel like we don't we don't overuse it. So, and when it's said, we really, really mean it. Even if I say, okay, love you, bye, I'll speak to you tomorrow, it's meant. And I don't think previously we maybe felt comfortable to say it. And I think trust had a component there.
In what way?
Um, I don't know, trust that it wouldn't be taken for granted, maybe, or that it wouldn't feel weird, like a
Right.
self trust thing. Yeah,
Or taken out of context, or I
yeah.
think sometimes you hear people say love you or whatever, and it feels or sounds somewhat shallow
Mm,
versus what you're saying is that there's depth to it and meaning
yeah,
at this point, which is really sweet, which is really nice.
yeah,
I'm finding that my family members we're all starting to say it as well a little bit. We are not big sayers. Like Mark's family says it all the time. They literally end every conversation with love you. And I like listen, and it almost feels a little awkward to me
mm,
because we are not that kind of family. I mean, it's not, but yet lately it's we're starting to say it a little bit, and I think there's a lot of meaning behind it. So,
I love
as with
that.
you, yeah, yeah,
It feels good, doesn't it?
it does.
Yeah, it
And then
definitely
if
does.
something happens, like, there's something about giving language, right? We all learn that when we learn how the brain works and how life works. There's something about putting words and language around what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that if you talk about love openly and you feel the love, I think you get more love, right? I mean,
Mm,
you end up being more loving and people around you are more loving, and what a wonderful thing to put out there.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, What else should people think about during the
Work.
holiday season?
So we talked about family and friends, but I
Mm.
started out by talking the other bucket is work, right? I mean, all the deliverables, all the pressure to like not only do you have all your work parties and your work social events and all that stuff, but you also have end of the year closings and numbers and deliverables and and fitting all that in. And then I don't know about you, but I have quite the history of clients deciding to send out an RFP maybe like on December 21st and have it due on
Oh,
January 2nd when they return.
no.
So it's on their desk. And so, right, things like that happening. And so how do you manage and use it as an opportunity to build trust in the workplace, right? I think that's the other big one.
Mm, that's an interesting one. Like so when it comes to the work parties and things like that, I think it's always a great opportunity to build camaraderie and to get to know your coworkers in a different setting, which is great, especially if you don't have that opportunity throughout the year. But it's also okay to have boundaries,
Mhm.
right? You don't have to go if you don't want to the after party or the after party after the after party. Like
Oh,
I've
but the
once
food
been
is
to
so
like
good.
the 3 after parties. Well, yeah, exactly. So it's okay. Like it's okay to have boundaries. You can stop in for the food and say hello and have a chit chat, and it's okay to leave
Right.
if that's your boundary and that's the level of energy that you have. Like don't feel extra obliged just because it's the end of the year to stay. Um, because the reality is there are parties, but there is also all of that work that you mentioned as well.
Right. So how do you do self-care and how do you create balance? And so maybe that's where this leads is in the next like between now and maybe we can talk more detail about this next week, but how do you take care of yourself?
Mm.
Because unless you take care of yourself, then I don't know how you show up so that people trust you because you end up
Mm.
getting stressed or say things you don't mean or or you start like I envision hair sticking out and
When I'm
you know
stressed, I get short. Like I'm short with my words. What's your stress language, Susan?
how did I sound last week? Was I short?
You sounded flustered. And yes, yes. I don't think you were short. I think you're such a great storyteller that it's never shortness. It's more of it's something else. I don't even know what to call it.
But
It's like
there's
a
a
redirection.
tension. It's a tension in my voice, and I think I get
Yes.
like this urgent. Um, the world and I are one, and nothing
Mm.
else exists at this moment. Like somehow, I'm somebody that always needs a plan and always needs a path. And once I have and probably all of us are like that to some degree. And once I have the plan and the path, I calm down. I think for me, it would be really helpful to calm down and breathe so that that
Mm.
path and plan comes sooner. Because if not, I'm like the hamster spinning wheels, trying to figure it out. And I need to figure it out yesterday because that's what the plan calms me down. Then again, managing my own expectations
Yeah.
and the expectations around everybody else calms me down.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I would say by the time I talked to 3 or 4 people about the scam, I talked to the police and I talked to Microsoft and I talked to my sister who's really good at stuff like this. And eventually, that day we had you're going to do this, 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 and this. And we talked to the bank and we changed everything there and they had it all set up. And they were like, when people around me were calm, that helped me get
Yeah.
calm too.
Oh, good.
Because we catch each other's energy, right? So you could get as exasperated or frustrated or anxious as I was when we talked,
Yeah.
Or you could be like the police that just told me, "Oh, it happens to everybody. Yeah, you're so lucky. They didn't really get you." Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, and I was like, "Really?" Like
I got
everybody
brushed
I
it
talked
off.
to calm me. They just levels of calming me down, and which helped
Good.
a lot. Yeah. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's I get that urgent, gotta solve it. The world's gonna come to an end if I don't do it, and it's all about me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. I have. Hmm. Do you tell yourself to breathe? Do you tell yourself like slow down, breathe, or does that happen like without consciously or intentionally doing it? I
Um,
mean, obviously you're still breathing, but
do I
do you is that your self-talk? That's what I'm curious to find out.
So as we were saying talking about this just now, I think that, and this is really a good lesson for me, is that yes, I do breathe, but I don't remember to do it until I'm way down that road. So
Ah,
until I get down that road, until I almost things have to start falling in place a little bit
yeah,
for there to be space for me to say, "Oh yeah, I should be breathing because that's grounding and calming and will eliminate the stress and you could think clearer and all that good thing." So I think as I was telling you that story, I think as things happen to remember to breathe is a really, really good idea. How about you? I mean, what happens when you get like stressed and like that's what happens to me.
I get short and frustrated when I'm extremely stressed. I feel um like I just want to, oh, okay, it's fine. Like let's just not do that. Like let's just walk away from that. So I almost like I want to abandon the stress, which is also not the answer.
Right.
What I've found is that, and I did this a lot when I was commuting, when I was working more in the office, I used to rush home because I had evening calls or some more work to do, rush home, open the door, take my jacket off, leave it on the side of the bench at the door, come in, open my laptop, da, 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 da. And then when I finish working, I turn around and I'm like, why is the house a mess? And that would stress me out that the house was a mess. So I actually tell myself when I'm rushing to get into the house and I put the key, I'm like, slow down. And I tell myself to slow down and I take a breath. Then I open the thing. Then I put my coat away. So I do more of the self-talk, the breath, and that's how I catch myself. But also I think at a bigger picture level, I've also started to realize like some things are not worth my stress because I've realized that things are not always meant to go to plan. Sometimes we're meant to go down a different path or be pleasantly surprised by something else.
Mhm. I
So
agree.
I'm embracing that so much more now, and I don't catastrophize when things don't go to plan.
Well, and I think that's age, right? I think as we go through life, we realize that we will figure it out. I
Yeah,
think when you're younger, you don't know that you're going to figure it all out, but the reality is if you look backwards and you look at all the things that happened that were so catastrophic at the time, we're here and we're fine. We did figure it out one way or another. We
we did.
navigated it and that feels good, right? So it gives
Mhm.
you confidence that you can like breathe and you can have confidence that you will do
Yeah,
it. You'll do it. It is 44 minutes and I'm thinking we need to rock and roll. What I'd love to do next, still in the holiday season,
yeah.
is talk about well-being and trust next week.
Okay.
Like, talk about how we take care of ourselves. We
Mm,
talked a lot about things that are we have to think about, and I think we kinda touched on that with the breathing and the mindfulness. But think about for next week, how do we really take care of ourselves during this month?
Okay.
And what does that have to do with trust, if anything?
I love that. Deal.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. We'll see you all next
See
week.
you all next week.
Thank you,
Ciao,
Susan.
everybody. Thank you,
Bye.
Christina. How do I shut this off?